Hello, everyone, and welcome back. We are looking at the BD3000 luxury droid. This was a fan recommended droid to kind of review. So here we are. This is also known as an attendant droid and nicknamed the Betty Bots. There were a number of uh, model of high-end secretary droids used by the Galactic Republic Trade Federation, the Hutt clan during the Clone Wars. During the Clone Wars, a BD 3000 known as the Hologram VJ hosted a music program which broadcast across the galaxy. Her show was popular among the Republic's clone troopers and was sometimes dedicated songs to particular units, such as the mud jumpers of the 224th. Another luxury droid was used as a cloaked decoy for Senator Padme Amidala. Trade Federation Senator Lot Dodd owned a pair of golden BD 3000s. Two BD 3000 droids, Carly and Nigel, once occupied uh, Takonda Castle on Takonda, serving as judges in Sterno Tug's cooking competition. The pair were also responsible for the murder of Chef Rob's Eli. Let's see. So a lot of this is kind of coming from a lot of the more common that you're going to see is a lot of the Rebels, the Clone Wars, and that. But this is actually an older droid, and it does come more from the legends. Um, as we will kind of get into that a little bit farther here. Um, and it is fun to see how this has really evolved. This has evolved quite a bit from what it originally started. It started off as more of a very kind of stocky, kind of like a female version of 3PO, to now when we look at it with the main picture that we have here on the screen, being more of an anime-ish kind of droid, female droid. So with that, let's get into our D6 stats and we will talk more about this as we go along. All right, so looking at the droids themselves, the BD 3000 luxury droid. Now, this is a pre Clone Wars era droid. Uh, Trying to find this brand new is going to be pretty hard to do, and a lot of these have been modified. So let's keep this in mind as we look at all of this in general. All right, so this is going to be a Leisure Mac Enterprises BD 3000 luxury attendant droid. Has a dexterity of 1D, so not the most dexterous of droids. Can move around without bumping into everything, but obviously not doing cartwheels. Knowledge is going to be a 3D. Business, culinary arts are going to be at a 5D, and language is a 6D, so it can try and be a little bit of a protocol droid as well as a kind of secretarial droid. Mechanical is a 1D, but it does have repulsor lift operations of 3D. Perception's 2D, so that's our galactic standard with persuasion at a 4D. Strength is 1D, technical is 1D, although it has a first aid skill of 3D. Now, looking at our droid for what we all have, we have humanoid body, 2 arms, 2 legs, a head, 2 visual and auditorial sensors, human range, a vocabulator for speech and sound, capable of reproducing a wide variety of sounds and voices. Communications module with over 1.5 million languages. So, somewhat on par with 3PO, although I believe 3PO was 3 million different languages. We do have a move speed of 8, so a little bit slower than our galactic standard. Size is 1.65 meters tall, and brand new, these went for 25,000 credits. Now, looking at our pictures here, and our silver droid was one of the original concepts for the BD 3000. Like I said, it was more of a female version of a 3PO droid. And then later on, we had gotten some CG versions. bringing the hips in a little bit and a little bit more feminine characteristics. Although, I mean, you could see a little bit of that from our silver one up above, but it is getting a little bit more of that kind of nice feminine features. And of course, then we have our latest iteration, which is what we got from the Clone Wars, which is still from George Lucas. Now, the good and the bad of these. When we're looking at droids like this, and being secretarial droids, droids that people are going to kind of show off, and they're going to be used for some not so family friendly activities. Are they going to be modified for certain things? Probably. Try not to take it into a certain direction, but obviously this is kind of the direction things are kind of going with this, and we'll get into. I think our next week we will get into doing more of that type of droid because we're leading into this, so we'll do it once and we'll just get it over and done with. Um, the big downfall is for those that are really wanting droids like this. Obviously, you're not going to be down on your luck most likely getting a droid like this. I'm sure the price is probably going to go up on these because they're going to be sought after a little bit more. Kind of like a nice sports car. The price is going to jump up more, especially if it's well taken care of. Now, are all of these going to be metal clad versions of these? Probably not in the future. We have the synth of flesh that we see from Luke Skywalker when he loses his hand, and that. So, is there a possibility that someone's reworked and highly modified some of these so that way they're all nice and soft and plushy in certain areas? Yeah, very likely. Um, would that make it very plausible for a good character to run a kind of droid character in that regards? Sure. Very easily done. I think you could easily create a character like that. Um, if you're looking for one, I would say that you're probably going to have to roll a 30 or better to try and find one because they're not going to be overly common. And those that do have them are going to be a lot of your crime lords or other people that are fairly well off, and they're not going to want to give some of them up. I could see, and this is taken like from Ghost in the Shell, where they had a episode where people had high end droids, something like this, but all kind of dolled up or whatever, kind of showing off, flaunting what their droids were, how customized they were, and so on and so forth. Um, you're kind of talking about people that are high end, and sometimes they have lesser morals than others. Just kind of keep it in that regard. Maybe somebody for a character arc is you were once one of these droids and you broke free and you are now on your own, running from whoever is had originally owned you, um, and just kind of going from there. There are a lot of different things that could be done with these to really kind of modify them. One of the scarier things is when we're talking about crime lords or whatever, is having a high end droid like this to give it to someone of some sort of standing, whether it's a moth, someone of a big corporation or whatever that you really want to get in good with. And inside, you might have some software or hardware for trying to record and retransmit essentially everything that's being said. So that way you can kind of know some of the things that's going on in the background that they don't typically tell you, which has been brought up in some of the actual Legends Star Wars books. And they were using a cleaning droid for that one. But something like this would work very well. You're going to have someone's defenses down maybe a little bit because they're going to be just dazzled by the droid itself, and not so much concerned about what else might be hidden inside that droid. So it is an interesting droid. It is a fun droid to kind of throw out there. And like I said, where we were being our nice silver droid here for the start, and how it's kind of morphed into a more feminine and more kind of anime-ish feminine look. Um, and we see some of the stuff in today's day and age. And it is kind of getting more and more curious as to where things are going to go. So, uh, in the Star Wars sense, they've been dealing with droids for quite a while. Now, the downfall and why droids are not really seen so much as sentient beings is there is a lot of distaste and distrust in droids because they have inadvertently taken jobs away from regular humanoid species. Having prosthetics and all that is really kind of looked down upon. That is actually coming from Kraken's Rebel Field Guide. When they talk about certain upgrades, kind of like Luke Skywalker's hand, if you do happen to lose a body part from the war, yes, you can get a prosthetic. But most people that do have that happen, they're going to want to hide it. Uh, in the core, you find a lot more droids because there's more places that can build them, that can supply parts to them, and all of those extra services to keep all this stuff maintained. Where when you get to the outer rim, like Tatooine, um, you're going to have droids here and there, but not to any high degree that you're going to find in the core. It's harder to get parts. The environment, like a sandy environment like that, is harder on the droids. Quite often, as you know, Anakin was sold into slavery. You find more of those kind of beings being used for the manual labor than the droids. In the core, you could consider the droids being kind of slaves to whatever corporations or whoever owns them. The nice thing is typically we see enough droids that are being treated kind of like family members and friends and all that stuff, which does give us a lot nicer view. But on the other hand, there are going to be a lot of the darker areas that unfortunately are going to happen. And a lot of people are not going to take very good care. They're going to kick the things, they're going to yell at them, they're going to beat them up and all that stuff. You know, all the undesirable kind of things that we can think of. You know, we want to look on the brighter side and think of the nice fluffy world, but unfortunately, even in Star Wars, we do see that there are cracks in that, and regrettably, there are those that you know do not so pleasant things, um, which are wonderful things to have your group and your own characters try and fight them off to try and right the wrongs. So with that being said, thank you so very much for joining me today. Hope you enjoyed the look into this. Um, Wikipedia did not have as much into this as what I thought, because I do remember reading up a little bit on this. Um, and a lot of the crime lords and all that, they were the ones that were getting this, and they were kind of modifying it in a lot of different directions. Use your own imagination as to where that goes and what you may or may not want to allow in your own campaigns, and your own thoughts of the galaxy at whole. Because unfortunately, even in the Clone Wars, it really does show some of the darker sides of the galaxy, especially once you get past or get into season 3 and beyond. You start seeing darker, seedier areas that are not so nice and fluffy. And unfortunately, it doesn't bring out sometimes the best out of people. So, with that, hope you're having a wonderful day, and I'll see you in the next video.